What's good, people? We back with another video today, and in this one, we're gonna be talking about every single game from week 2, starting with the Thursday night game, moving on all the way to what happened on Monday night in the Bills game and the Eagles game. So let's get into it. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment section. I'm also gonna put in the description timestamps for every game. So this might be a long video. If you just want to get to your team, hear what I gotta say about them, it'll be in the comments. Let's get it. Chiefs, Chargers, let's talk about it. It was in Kansas City. Stadium was crazy. Great atmosphere. The game was awesome. Very sloppy. Real sloppy game, but it was a fun game to watch. My biggest takeaway from this game, man, the reason why I can't pick the Chargers to win this division, the reason why I can't pick the Chargers to go far in this division, not in this division, but to go far in the AFC, they always beat themselves. It's it's always something with the Chargers, man. I always say this because it's true. It's always something with the Chargers. In this game, Patrick didn't play a great game. Patrick Mahomes did not play a great game. He must have had like 3, 4, maybe 5 turnover worthy plays. But the Chargers dropped every single one of them. They should have had a few interceptions, but they just couldn't capitalize on Patrick's almost mistakes. And then of course, they're driving down the field. I think it was the third quarter. Maybe it might have been the fourth quarter, actually. About to take the lead. And then Justin Herbert throws a 100-yard pick six. Herbert was picked off by Jalen Watson, a 7th-round draft choice out of Ventura College. Great story. Amazing moment by him. Great play made by him. Especially to take it to the house, too. He had to juke and shift. I think he juked out Justin Herbert, too, on his way to the touchdown. Great play by him. But, man, and this is just one game, and it was a close game. I think the Chargers probably should have won the game. I think they were they have the more talent than the Chiefs. I said this before the season. They're the more talented roster, but I think the Chiefs are a better team. And why? Because the Chiefs know how to win games like this. Even when the Chargers were up, I was like, I got confidence in the Chiefs because we've seen this before from Kansas City. They know how to win these close games. They know how to win these scrappy, these kind of sloppy, slugfest type games. And Patrick Mahomes, I saw a stat, is 22-3 since becoming the starter uh, in AFC West games, I believe it was. So you can never count out the Chiefs. I don't care who they have on their roster. I don't care that they lost Tyreek Hill, who's a monster, and we'll get to him later, believe that. But the Chiefs still have Pat Mahomes, still have Andy Reid, still have Travis Kelce, have a damn good offensive line. Um, that was getting kind of ragdolled, actually, by the way, because Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa is for sure the best edge duo in the league. Like, I don't know who's coming in second. I don't know who's close, but those two that's insane to have those two on the same roster. Um, but man, the Chiefs find a way to get it done. They're 2-0. Chargers are 1-1, and now have Justin Herbert, who's injured, dealing with some cracked ribs, probably some fractured ribs. I don't know if he's gonna play Week 3. I hope he does, because they play the Jaguars, and the Jaguars are kind of a trap game, man. The Jaguars can definitely beat the Chargers if they don't dot their I's and cross their T's. So that'll be a fun one. Chiefs. Let me actually look it up. Who did the Chiefs play next? On the spot here, the Chiefs play the Colts next. Oof. Oof. I don't even want... We'll get to the Colts. But yeah, good win by the Chiefs. Chargers, they'll be there. They're a playoff team. I picked the Chargers to be second place in this division. They just got to learn to stop beating themselves, to stop shooting themselves in the foot. Because if they can do that, they'll be a real Super Bowl contender. But until then, I don't think they're a real Super Bowl threat because they struggle with the simple stuff. And that's not good if you're going up against the Bills, the Chiefs, the Ravens. I still have faith in the Bengals, even though we'll get to the Bengals too. But That's my thoughts on the Chiefs Chargers. Let's get into the next game. Let's talk about the Panthers and Giants next. Now, this game really boils down to me between coaching staffs. Brian Dable absolutely seems like the right hire. Finally, it feels like the Giants have structure, have the correct structure, have great leadership. John Mara, for once, has made the right decision. It's only 2 games, and I know the Giants are 2-0. I don't expect them to be some, 10, 11, 12 win team challenging for a playoff spot. They don't have the talent. You know, Ideally, this is a 6, 7 win team, and they're just showing growth. And Brian Dable is, cemented as the future for the Giants. Um, Brian Dable looks the part, man. He looks the part. You can tell the players love him, uh, especially after going for it in the first game against the Titans. Saquon and Shep and Daniel Jones all hyped up and screaming and yelling, hugging him. You can tell these players love playing for Brian Dable, and that he's really and he says it in his press conferences all the time. He's putting the game in the hands of his players, and he trusts his players. And when you say things like that, it makes the players want to go that much harder for you. So I'm all in on Brian Dable. I think he's absolutely the right head coach. And the Giants are moving in the right direction. Feels like the first time. Do I want to say in a decade? I mean, I know they went to the playoffs in 2016, but even that year, they had a lot of weird games, a lot of like 10-7 wins, 13-7 wins. Like, you didn't feel good about them, even though they made the playoffs that year. You feel good about the Giants. And again, they're not a playoff team this year in my eyes. They just don't have the talent yet. But they're building. They're headed in the right direction. And in the past, you really couldn't say that about the Giants, and that feels great. Meanwhile, the Panthers, it feels like Matt Rule, we're counting the days down to Matt Rule kind of getting out of here, because the Panthers are the exact opposite of the Giants. The Panthers have more talent than the Giants. I'm not saying the Panthers are one of the most talented teams, but they have a really good D-line. Christian McCaffrey, DJ Moore are superstars in this league. Stuff. So I'm like, I don't know, man. The Panthers are weird to me, man. And I also don't like the fact that they fired Joe Brady from the offense coordinator spot and hired Ben McAdoo. I don't know, man. The Panthers are so weird to me. They just feel weird. I don't know if Matt Rule is the guy. I don't think that he is. Um, I don't have much to say about the Panthers other than I don't think they have the coach in place. So they're just kind of in flux right now. They're just kind of in purgatory. I don't have much to say about the Panthers. Now let's talk about the Jets and the Browns and Cleveland. The Browns is the Browns, I guess. How do you lose this game, man? Yo, Cleveland. Oh, I was sick when I saw that they lost this game. They were up like 30-17 with like a minute left, with like 2 minutes left in the game. They're up 30-17. I'm at a loss for words. Like I can't even talk about this game. Like I don't know how they lose this game, and that sucks because you're playing with a backup quarterback in Jacoby Brissett. You're in a tough division. So games like that, it would have been a great help to start 2-0, knowing that you still got 2 games with the Steelers, 2 games with the Bengals, 2 games with the Ravens. You're in the AFC, for crying out loud. This is going to be it's going to be tough to make the playoffs. This is a game you had to win if you want to be in the playoffs. And they let it slip through their fingers. That's a brutal loss, man. And now they play Pittsburgh. Are they in Pittsburgh? Let me look at this up real quick. No, they're home. They're home. Okay, so yeah, you have that at least, but Pittsburgh won't be a tough, won't be an easy out. Rather, they're gonna be tough. especially in this division. Division games are always tough. So it hurts bad to lose this game. As for the Jets, man, bravo. I mean, to get that onside kick, that was impressive. Garrett Wilson showed out. The rookie 10th overall draft pick, by most people's boards was the number one receiver in this class. Made big plays down the stretch when they needed him. Um, he's a player. He's a stud, and it's gonna be so much fun to watch him. Wish I had him on fantasy so I could, root for him there as well, but obviously I don't. But he's a stud, man. And the Jets have more talent than you'd think. This roster is really good. It's just when you think of the Jets, you always think of, they're it's the Jets. How good are they gonna be? You know what I'm saying? But this roster is really good, man. And Joe Flacco, credit to him, he played a good game. Now, obviously, he won't be the starter all season. Hopefully, Zach Wilson's coming back in a couple weeks. Um, and it's make or break time for Zach Wilson. Now, I would still give him plenty of time. Like, it's only his second season. But we know the New York media, we know the New York fans, we know sports media in general. If you're not showing out early, they're gonna dog you. So Zach's, and now Joe Flacco has a win. Like if the Jets had went 0-4 in that stretch, Flacco looked terrible. The Jets were terrible. Wilson came in. There wouldn't be that much pressure. But now Joe Flacco's got a win. He's looked pretty good these last couple games. He might look good the next two games. Imagine the Jets are 3-1. Zach Wilson comes back, and then he stinks up the joint. It's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough to see how they navigate that. Now, they just play the Bengals next week. Bengals have not looked like world beaters, and then they play the Steelers. Same thing. So those are two teams that. Now I'm not picking them to beat the Bengals, but they could. The Bengals have not looked good. And then the Steelers with Mitch Trubisky and that offense, we talked about it. They could win that game too. So there's a world where the Jets are 3-1. Zach Wilson comes back, and then, you know, he's got a lot of pressure on him to keep the winning going. You know what I'm saying? So fascinating to keep up with the Jets and Cleveland. I don't pick either of these teams to make the playoffs. The Bengals, I just thought it was too much with Watson coming back in like the final 6 games or whatever it is. I just think that's too much to overcome. They're probably not a playoff team. I like the roster, but man, you got to win games like this, man. You have to beat the Jets at home, by the way. You have to win this game. And they let it slip through their fingers. That's a tough loss, man. But for the Jets, props, big respect, and we'll see if they can keep it going. Next, let's talk about the Colts and the Jaguars, man. Wow. I was wrong about the Colts. I was wrong. I picked them to win this division. I thought it was going to be pretty clear cut. Wow, dude. Have they looked just anemic, just brutal. And in this game, they don't score a point. Like, at least against the Texans, like, okay, like, they struggled heavily. But at least they came back at the end and had a chance to win it. They missed a field goal. Ends up being a tie, but you don't score a point against the Jags? That's brutal, dude. And this is coming into the season. We're expecting the Colts to really handle the Texans and the Jags. Like, we expected them. Like, those are 2 games. If you look at the schedule before the season, those are 2 games you need to win. Those are 2 games. You're supposed to be 2-0 right now. The Colts, everybody thought, are a playoff team. You have to be 2-0 in these games. Now, I know divisional games are always wonky. I always say that. You never know in the division, but come on, man. Now you got the Chiefs this week. Is anybody picking the Colts to beat the Chiefs after what we just saw them do against the Jags? Let alone what happened against the Texans? Hell no. So, Colts are in trouble, man. Now, I will sort of pat myself on the back a little bit. I picked the Jaguars to be second place in this division this year. Off the simple fact that Trevor Lawrence, like, we can't forget Trevor Lawrence was this generational prospect coming out of college. But on top of that, he just needed some structure, man. his rookie season with Urban Meyer's Jaguars was, I don't even want to think about that anymore. I don't even want to look back to it because it's so irrelevant. Um, Urban Meyer, we all know. I don't even want to get into it, but he's got structure now with Doug Peterson, this coaching staff. Say whatever you want about Doug Peterson. He's won a Super Bowl in this league recently. So while I wasn't the biggest fan of the hire, it was way better than what they did with Urban Meyer last year. That's for damn sure. So, but now he's got structure. James Robinson, man, how about James Robinson? Now I know he didn't have the greatest per carry average in this game, but he looks good despite the torn Achilles. Uh, I think it's been less than a year since he tore his Achilles. Like he looks good. Big respect from me to James Robinson. I'm so happy he's healthy. I'm so happy that he looks the same. Because he's a damn good player, man. And I hope he gets paid, uh, whether it's with the Jags or somebody else for a second contract. Because it's easy to root for guys who were overlooked, drafted late, coming off tough injuries. It's just easy to root for a guy like James Robinson, man. So that's great to see. Christian Kirk, for all the trash people talked about him getting paid $23 million this offseason per year, he's earned every penny through these two games. He is the go-to guy in this offense. He's making play after play. Uh, he's the guy in this offense, man, and he's making it work. And Trevor Lawrence is finding him often. And that's great to see, man. Proving haters wrong. I always love seeing that. Shout out Christian Kirk. Shout out these Jaguars, man. And don't look now. I know it's only 2 weeks. I know it's only 2 games. But they're first place in the division. So this division is going to be a shit show. We know this. It's going to be tough. But for what it's worth, they're first place right now. So shout out the Jaguars, man. Um, the Jaguars are one of the most fun teams to watch for me so far. I want to keep watching this team. I want to keep seeing Trevor Lawrence develop. James Robinson is awesome. Travis Etienne's fun too. They have a whole bunch of good weapons. Evan Ingram coming in now. Zay Jones. Of course, we talked about Christian Kirk. This is a fun team to watch. And that defense, Trayvon Walker's made a couple big plays early. That defense is fun too. They got a lot of young pieces in the secondary. Andrew, I think his name is Andre Cisco. Could be wrong on that. Tyson Campbell. This is a good young team that's continuing to build. So I'm intrigued. Jaguars, you have my attention. It's time to talk about the game of the freaking week. Dolphins, Ravens. I don't know where to start. Yes, I do. Lamar Jackson. This man was disrespected so heavily in this offseason. Like, did y'all forget who in the world Lamar Jackson is? Lamar Jackson is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, undoubtedly. I saw so many people rank him outside the top 10. Are you kidding me? Lamar Jackson is at least top 8. At least a top 8 quarterback in this league. He is phenomenal, man. Nobody can do what Lamar Jackson does. Let me look at his stat sheet real quick. Lamar Jackson, 21 of 29, 318 yards passing, 3 touchdown passes. Also, on just 9 carries, 119 rushing yards, and 1 rushing touchdown. He's not only a top 8 quarterback, but he's the best running back on the Ravens right now. Like, this dude is the offense, okay? You can't say that about a lot of quarterbacks. He is the offense. He's phenomenal. Now, I know he did fumble on 4th and goal at the inch yard line. That was bad, but before that, they should have punched it in before that. Like, the Ravens had some suspect play calls in the red zone, but largely, I'm not blaming this loss on Lamar Jackson. I'm just not. That's what we're not going to do, because Lamar Jackson showed up and showed out. So we're not blaming this on Lamar Jackson. Also, Rashad Bateman looks like a real number 1 receiver. They let go of Hollywood Brown. He's kind of floundering in Arizona. We'll get to that. Rashad Bateman caught a touchdown, 50-yard touchdown week 1. 75-yard touchdown on a quick, like just a slant. Lamar hits him in stride. Bateman runs past the entire defense. Great play by Rashad Bateman. He's legit. You know, I picked him in the first round. When I mocked him, I thought he would go to the Jaguars with their was it their second first round pick? The pick they took Travis Etienne. I wanted them to take Rashad Bateman. Great job by the Ravens. We always say this about the Ravens. Somehow, these talents just fall to them, and they don't have to move up. They don't have to do anything. They just fall in their lap. Rashad Bateman. We all knew he was a great prospect coming out, and now this year with Lamar Jackson healthy, second year, Bateman looks like a beast. We don't have to say much about Mark Andrews, probably the second best tight end in the league, behind Travis Kelce. Andrews is a stud. Had a couple big catches, caught a touchdown pass. Yeah, man, the Ravens offense is elite solely because of Lamar Jackson. Now, defensively, that's a whole different story. And now, this one I want to talk about too. Like, I picked the Ravens to win this division, and I still feel pretty good about that. But one of the two biggest reasons why I did that was, one, Lamar Jackson, of course, and two, looking at this roster last year and how depleted it was, I was like, there's no way, there's no way that for a second year in a row, they're going to be dealing with as many injuries as they dealt with last year. But it's happening. Their secondary it's been bludgeoned by injuries. Their top 2 running backs are still not healthy. J.K. Dobbins is week to week. Gus Edwards, we don't expect to see him until probably November, I think. Like late October, early November. So their running game is struggling. Kenyon Drake is not it. Mike Davis is not it. Nobody's scared of those guys. So puts even more pressure on Lamar Jackson this passing game to really show up, because they're kind of one-dimensional right now, aside from Lamar's rushing ability. We all know. But man, and in this game, the defense definitely lost it. The secondary was gashed. And I saw a stat on Twitter where it said Marlon Humphrey, their style number 1 corner, was out in the 4th quarter, I think, for like a couple plays. And in that time he was out, the Dolphins had 3 touchdowns scored. That's insane. Like, yeah, the Ravens are in trouble defensively. They got to figure out this injury situation. Like, the injury bug, I did not expect it to bite them in the ass for a second straight year, but that's what it looks like. And I know everybody likes to say, oh, everybody's hurt, every team's dealing with injuries, you can't use injuries as an excuse. I'm not, but that's the reality of the situation. Their secondary is not full health, and there was so many lapses in coverage that allowed Miami, with these dynamite receivers, to score in succession, you know? So Ravens got to figure that out immediately, man. I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know how they're going to figure it out, but they got to figure it out. Moving on to the Dolphins now. Yo, how about Tua, man? 36 for 50, 469 yards, and 6 touchdown passes. What can you say, man? Other than bravo to Tua, that's for sure his best game of his young career. And it feels good, man, because, like, I definitely talk down on Tua at times because he hasn't been a perfect quarterback. Plus, being compared to Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert in that draft class, it's tough. And I've given Tua some crap for sure. But I also said that the dual offensive coordinator system that they were doing under Brian Flores the past couple years with Tua was not it. The fact that they kept bringing him out, putting him in, taking him out his rookie year, terrible. terrible management. The fact that they tried to get Deshaun Watson, that's a great way to show your young quarterback. That's a great way to give your young quarterback confidence. The previous coaching staff, as much as I love Brian Flores, they did not do Tua any favors. But now you bring in Mike McDaniel, and Mike McDaniel is it. He is it. He's the guy. He is the guy. I don't care that it's only 2 games. Mike McDaniel is the guy. You bring in a coach now who is all in on Tua, who is really coaching him, helping him, teaching him the game, wants to see him succeed, and is tied, put all his chips in, put all his eggs in the Tua basket, has Mike McDaniel. And Tua's just confident, man, and you can tell he's having fun. And how can you not have fun when you have Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, the best receiving duo in the league, on your roster? You're throwing to these guys like, oh my God, man. Like, this team is so fun to watch. And I said this before the season started, that the Dolphins and the Raiders were going to be the 2 teams I was most interested in watching this year. And we'll talk about the Raiders because they were in another crazy game too this week. But man, how do you stop Tyreek and Jalen? How do you do that with a coach like Mike McDaniel, who's scheming up like so many creative play calls? I loved this call that, this is the only one that's popping up off the top of my head. There were so many, but he brings Tyreek Hill in the backfield, so everybody's paying attention. Oh, Tyreek Hill's in the backfield. There's only one reason for him to be in the backfield. They're definitely giving him the ball. The entire offense keys in on Tyreek Hill. It's a quick, hike. Tua throws quick on a screen to Jalen Waddle, and he waltzes in for the touchdown. Like, stuff like that. It's so fun to watch. A great play caller with great weapons at his disposal. Like, this is such a good dynamic, man. Like, and also, there were so many moments in that game where I'm watching Tua, and I'm like, this is Jimmy Garoppolo. He looks like Jimmy with the quick release, these speedy weapons running through the middle, quick passing game. And Mike McDaniel kind of mirrors Kyle Shanahan. It's like, this is like the 49ers. It's crazy to watch. But yeah, man, I don't know what else to say about the Dolphins other than they're so much fun to watch. And now they play the Bills this week, so we have Dolphins Bills. Now I will say this, Tua, you can't put this team in a hole like he did against the Ravens, because the Bills are healthy. The Bills secondary is very healthy, and if you throw a couple early turnovers, the Bills get up to a big lead. I don't know if the Dolphins are going to be able to come back like they did against the Ravens and their depleted secondary. So Tua's going to have to be sharp from the start of the game against the Bills. But dude, that game's going to be phenomenal, and I'm definitely going to be watching that game closely. Dolphins, great job. They're 2-0. Ravens, you're 1-1, but Ravens are fine. Now let's get into the Buccaneers and the Saints. Bucs finally get a win against the Saints in the regular season. 20-10 is the final. Let's start with the Saints. So I didn't predict the Saints to make the playoffs. I think I had it. Let me see if I can do the order. I think I had 1 seed Bucs, 2 seed was the Packers, 3 seed Rams, 4 seed I think I had the Cowboys. And we'll talk about the Cowboys later. 5 seed I had the 49ers, 6 seed I had the Cardinals, 7 seed I had the Eagles. So I didn't have the Saints in the playoffs, and I kind of got a lot of flack for that, because on paper I do love the Saints roster. Their defense is phenomenal. They have been so good the last few seasons. I love the Saints defense. And then you add more weapons for Jameis. Michael Thomas is coming back. Chris Olave. I picked Chris Olave to be the rookie of the year before the season started. Jarvis Landry, he's a really good number 3 option. Obviously, you have Alvin Kamara, Taysom Hill in those certain packages. The roster is really good. Really fun. But I couldn't put all my eggs in the Saints basket because of Jameis Winston. And ugly Jameis reared his head in this game. It was a like it felt like I don't, and I know he's dealing with an injury. He's got a couple back fractures. I can't even imagine playing football with your back broken. So kudos to Jameis, man. But at some point, I was like, man, I don't think he should be in the game. He's throwing like it felt like every other drive he's throwing an interception and costing his team. You know, and that's why I couldn't go all in on the Saints, man, because we know Jameis's history. For every big play Jameis hits, there's a couple interceptions right afterwards. That's not a quarterback that I can bet on. You know what I'm saying? I can't side with the Saints because of Jameis Winston. That's just what it is. Um, Now it's just 2 weeks, but he's already injured. You know, he got injured last year, was out for the season, and we saw what happened with between Ian Book and Taysom Hill and whoever else was playing quarterback last year. Now they do have Andy Dalton, and I think Dalton would be a nice floor for this team, but Andy Dalton hasn't been a starter in this league for a while now, and there's a reason for that. So I don't expect Andy Dalton to come in here and somehow this, all of a sudden the Saints are this shoe-in playoff team. No, the Saints always had an uphill battle to be a playoff team because of the quarterback situation, and that was no different in this game. You know, say what you want about the Bucs offense and Brady, but Brady wasn't good in this game. He wasn't great. It was hard running the ball. Leonard Fournette, I'm looking at it right now, 24 carries, 65 yards. That's 2.7 yards per carry. It wasn't easy at all for the Bucs. It was a struggle. But one thing about the Bucs, one thing about Brady, he's not going to turn it over. You know what I'm saying? Much compared to Jameis, and that's why the Bucs won a Super Bowl, because Tom Brady coming in had like 12 interceptions. I think his first season with the Bucs compared to 30 in Jameis's last year. That's all it takes. Win the turnover battle. Be smart. You know, Jameis throwing 3 picks. That's shorter fields for the Bucs. That's more opportunity to score points for the Bucs. And the Bucs defense is also phenomenal. Like they might have the best defense in the league. It's between them, the Niners, and probably the Bills. Um, I think I go with the Bucs though, because on top of being a phenomenal team against the run, they have a really good pass rush, and their secondary is so athletic. They're like 3, 4 deep at corner. Not many teams are. The, the Bucs are phenomenal, man. So I know it looked rough, and it looked rough week 1 too. They play the Packers week 3. That's going to be a very interesting game. Both teams really aren't where they want to be. The Packers still learning, still teaching these young receivers, figuring out the best way to attack teams offensively without Devontae. And then the Bucs are just injured, man. They lost another left tackle. They put Josh Wells on IR. So I don't know if Donovan Smith is coming back next week, but they might be on their third left tackle. Obviously, Chris Godwin has a tight hammy. He got injured week 1. Mike Evans is going to be suspended in week 3, that game. Julio Jones is in and out of the lineup. We don't know if he's going to be healthy. Bucs are going to be relying on a lot of backup offensive linemen. Rashad Perriman, Russell Gage, Scotty Miller, maybe Jalen Darden gets some mixed looks. The Bucs are not the Bucs that I expect to see later down the stretch, you know what I'm saying? And neither are the Packers. So whoever wins this game, I'm not taking too much out of it because of the circumstances involved. But Bucs just got to keep winning, you know what I'm saying? Stay afloat. They might lose to the Packers. The Packers are really good. They have a really good defense too. But they definitely could beat the Packers too. So, I'll talk about the Packers later and some of my frustrations with them. But Bucs, they get a good win, a necessary win in the NFC. They're 2-0, and yeah, I fully expect the Bucs to be one of the teams there at the end of the season for sure. So I'm not worried about the Bucs at all. Let's talk about the Commanders and the Lions now. And man, Both these teams are so fun to watch. Um, I always kind of felt like the Colts kind of did Wentz dirty with the way they kind of essentially tossed him out like trash. The way Jim Irsay was talking about him, uh, I think even Frank Reich might have said something kind of crazy about him. I don't remember though. I do remember that the owner said something crazy. But Wentz, I felt like was disrespected by the Colts. I know he had a bad last game against the Jaguars, but we just saw what the Colts did to the against the Jaguars, right? So it wasn't just Wentz, you know what I'm saying? But I see Wentz these first two games, and the Colts are missing some of this ability to create out of structure. Carson Wentz, for as frustrating as he can be, Carson Wentz is dynamic. He's got a phenomenal arm. He's mobile. He can move. He can move out of the pocket, in and out of the pocket. Carson Wentz is fun to watch, man. I don't care what anybody says. He's fun to watch. And now he's got, obviously, Terry McLaurin, one of the best receivers in the game. Curtis Samuel is healthy, and it's so good to see him healthy because we all know he's phenomenal and he's dynamic, dating back to his days with the Panthers, under Ron Rivera, by the way. Curtis Samuel is a dynamic gadget type player, but he's getting the workload of a number two receiver, of a number one receiver even. And then they drafted Jahan Dotson, one of my favorite players in that draft class. One of my favorite players, man. Jahan Dotson is a stud. Such a good route runner. Such a great catch radius. Like, even though he's 5'10", it kind of reminds me of Tyreek Hill in that way, where Tyreek is short, but Tyreek Hill is a very good catch and traffic receiver. Tyreek Hill is a very good jump ball receiver. Kind of reminds me of that similarly with Jahan Dotson. And he's showing out early in the red zone, too. I mean, he made a spectacular touchdown against the Lions. The Commanders are fun. Now I know they lost to the Lions. They got down. They were down like 22-0 or something crazy. Came back a little bit. Kind of made it a game towards the end, but they're gonna challenge for this division because of the offensive firepower that they have, and now defensively, they're still without Chase Young, so that sucks. But I don't know, man. It's weird to see this defense kind of be leaky because they have Ron Rivera, Jack Del Rio. These guys are renowned defensive minds in this league, but the defense really has not gotten the job done the first 2 weeks. So it'll be interesting. They play the Eagles next. That's a big divisional game. I think they play the Eagles next, actually. Let me make sure I'm not talking out of my, you know what. Yeah, Eagles at Commanders next week. That'll be a lot of fun. Especially after we see what the Eagles have done the first 2 weeks. Yeah, Commanders. That Commanders defense has a tough game ahead with the Eagles. So, but Commanders are a lot of fun, man. And I'm rooting for them. I want to see them do well. They're so much fun to watch. I love John Dotson. Moving on to the Lions, though. The Lions have scored 35 and 36 points the first 2 weeks of the season. Talk about another team that's so fun to watch. So many playmakers on this offense. Jared Goff has not been great. I will say that. Just 20 of 34, but he somehow had 4 touchdowns, led by Amon-Ra St. Brown, who... How did this guy go in the 4th round? It kind of reminds me of Keenan Allen all those years back, where Keenan was a 3rd round pick. That never made sense to me, even as a little kid. Like, I was like, Keenan Allen, he's a lock to be a 1st round pick. Keenan Allen being great in the league was like obvious to me. Amon-Ra St. Brown, sure, he's not the speedster that Jameson Williams is coming out this year, and now they have both of them, which is going to be crazy to see. Or, you know, let me think of somebody here. Like, he doesn't have all the physical assets that a Jalen Waddle had in that draft class, but Amon-Ra's a technician, man. Like, he just gets open and he knows what to do. And similar, just like Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen wasn't the best athlete coming out, but Keenan Allen was a damn good route runner. Keenan Allen was a damn good receiver. He didn't drop the ball often. Amon-Ra St. Brown is just a stud in every sense of the word. He's a stud. 9 catches, 116 yards, 2 touchdowns. Um, he's awesome, man. He also had a 60-yard run. Like, what can't this guy do, man? He's awesome. And then they have DeAndre Swift, who is kind of battling some injuries, but broke a big run early in the game. Jamal Williams had 53 yards and 12 carries. They're running the ball very effectively. Craig Reynolds even averaged 5 yards a carry. Um, so they have TJ Hawkinson. They're still working him in, still getting him involved. DJ Chark, I expect to have some big weeks um, down the stretch as well. They have a lot of talent, man. And then this defense, I know they've given up 38 and 27, but Aiden Hutchinson is legit. He's the guy. He was a great pick. I know only 2 games in, but he's been a great pick. I think he had 3 sacks against Wentz in the first half. Like, shout out Aiden Hutchinson, man. That was a great pick by the Lions. And I love the Lions, how they're building this team. I love the coaching staff. It was highlighted in Hard Knocks how many former players are on this staff, which is like, and they're teaching the game to these guys. I love this staff led by Coach Campbell, Dan Campbell. Brad Holmes, the GM, has done everything right in my eyes. Drafted well since he's come in. I love what the Lions are building, man, and I hope that they could challenge for a playoff spot this year. That would be awesome to see, because I the Lions were the dark horse team in the NFC for me, and to see what they put up on film the first 2 weeks has been a pleasure to watch. So, props to the Lions. I hope they can continue it. They play the Vikings, who coming off a bad game, but both teams are 1-1. That's a big divisional game early in the season. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Now it's time to talk about the Seahawks 49ers game. You see, we got the Lions jersey on, repping number 5. Gutted. Gutted. Absolutely gutted. Trey Lance breaks his ankle early in the game on the second possession inside the red zone. Devastated, man. And you got to think about it from this perspective too. Like, Trey Lance hasn't played much recently. Like, he had his 1 year of college, then the pandemic hit, so he opted out that year, gets drafted, sits behind Jimmy G all last year. This was the year he was gonna show out, man. And I fully expected him to show out, because I know a lot of people wanted to shit on Lance. A lot of people, like, weirdly, like he held some dirt over them. Like, he was holding something against these media guys' families or something. Like, weird how much Trey Lance was being disrespected and hated on. Like, hated on by the media. It was weird. And he did have a good first game, but I didn't think he played terribly given the conditions. But I expected him to be great this year. Highs and lows for sure, but really being the missing piece for the 49ers, man. And it sucks that we don't get to see him now, because we know what the 49ers are with Jimmy. Like, the 49ers with Jimmy are a playoff team for sure. Might even get to the NFC Championship game. Might even get to the Super Bowl, because that roster's insane. But does anybody think they're going to win a Super Bowl with Jimmy G? Does anybody think that's in the realm of possibility? I don't see it. I don't see it at all. Jimmy is not a top 20 quarterback in this league for me. And listen, I like Jimmy G. I'm a fan of Jimmy G. But the way people in the media were talking about him, it felt like the 49ers had Aaron Rodgers sitting on the bench. The way they're talking about Jimmy G. Like, Jimmy G's fine. He's cool. He's all right. But he's not somebody that takes a team over the top. He's, Charles Barkley said it best when talking about Kevin Durant. Jimmy Garoppolo is not a bus driver. He's a bus rider. That means when everything is going great, Jimmy G, he'll be just fine. You know what I'm saying? But if you're asking Jimmy to carry the team, like, oh, we're down 14 scores, or 14 points rather, we're down 2 scores. Hey, we need you to win. More often than not, he's not gonna win that game. You know what I'm saying? So Jimmy's back in. The floor is better for sure because Jimmy's an 8-year starter or an 8-year veteran. You know what I'm saying? Trey Lance is a second-year guy playing his first couple games of his career. Of course, the floor with Jimmy is better, but the ceiling is capped. And we all know this. The 49ers are not a Super Bowl winning caliber team with Jimmy. I just don't see that happening with teams like the Bucs. You know, uh, I just don't see the 49ers making the Super Bowl this year with Jimmy G. But I hope he proves me wrong. I hope the 49ers win a Super Bowl. I love the 49ers. I got the jersey on. I love the 49ers. I hope Jimmy proves me wrong, but based on what I've seen from Jimmy the past couple seasons, I'm not really expecting much. As for the Seahawks, I don't really have much to say. I mean, maybe Geno's 15 minutes of fame are over. I don't know. Maybe they just ran into a tough defense. The 49ers have one of the best defenses in the league. Um, I still don't know what to make of the Seahawks yet. I need to see more from them. Um, yeah, but we expected the Hawks to be one of the worst teams in the league. They had a nice feel-good win against the Broncos. I expected that game to be weird, given all the emotion attached to it. But I need to see more from the Hawks before I give a real, you know, give real analysis on them. I don't know. I don't know what to expect from Geno this next week. We'll see what happens. Moving on now to the Falcons and the Rams here. I'm gonna start with the Falcons here. So we all know the Falcons are not one of the best rosters in the league. We all know this. They're probably a bottom 10 roster. I was gonna say five. We'll say bottom 10 roster in the league. But they should have beaten the Saints. They let that game slip away, and then they're possession away from beating the Rams, Super Bowl defending champion Rams. Now I've acknowledged that the Rams are not the same team, uh, but that's still pretty damn impressive. That leads me to believe that Arthur Smith is the guy. He is the right coach for the job. Now I know the Falcons have not done enough winning. They also have to get Kyle Pitts involved. Like, I'm an Arthur Smith guy. I'm a believer in Arthur Smith. But you drafted Kyle Pitts fourth overall. I get it. It's not fantasy football, but odds are your chances of winning increase if you get Kyle Pitts involved. So that's my one gripe with Arthur Smith so far. Kyle Pitts, they drafted him fourth overall. Get him involved. You know, Drake London's a stud too, and we've seen it the first 2 weeks, but Kyle Pitts is a beast too. Like, get this man involved, please. That's my one gripe with the Falcons. Marcus Mariota, he didn't play great this game. Lost the game at the end too with an interception. Lost the game at the end, kind of, week 1 with the fumble in the red zone. But Mariota, he's been good. He's been decent. He's been better than expected, I'll be honest. And Mariota still throws one of the best footballs, man. I mean, when he throws a ball, it's so beautiful. It's so pretty to see him throw passes. Doesn't always throw it to the correct team, but it's fun to watch Mariota. It is fun to watch him. I think this is a good offense for him too. You know, and he's kind of familiar with it because they both were in Tennessee at one point in time. So, yeah, man, the Falcons, they're still a ways away for sure. I'm not picking the Falcons to make the playoffs or anything, but they have the coach in place, and that's more than you could say for teams like the Panthers. You know, where they're questioning if they have the right coach. At least Falcons, I don't know where Falcons fans land on this, but to me, you guys have the right coach in place. Arthur Smith is the real deal. I like him a lot. As for the Rams, man, I mean, they were supposed to win this game. They did win this game. Dominated early on, kind of fumbled, a couple weird fumbles. Cooper Cup fumbled, blocked punt, returned for a touchdown, made it closer than it looked. Um, I don't have much to say about the Rams other than they're still, they're dealing with injuries right now across the offensive line. Matthew Stafford's not 100%. Probably won't be at any point this season. Um, yeah, I think the Rams are fine. They'll be just fine. Still have them as a playoff team, one of the top teams in the NFC. So I'm not worried about the Rams at all. It was a close game, but most games are in the NFL. So I'm not worried about the Rams. Good win. And who do they play next week? Let me check that out. They play the Cardinals, so that should be a win. The Rams historically, the past couple of years, have done good things against the Cardinals, so they should win that game. Cardinals came into the season injured, missing Rondale Moore. We'll talk about the Cardinals, but Rams good win. Now, let's talk about Raiders and Cardinals, which was probably the second craziest game of the weekend. Um, man, let's start with Kyler Murray. Let's start with the Cardinals because Cliff Kingsbury is actively competing right now with Mike McCarthy, Nathaniel Hackett, uh, Matt Rule, and Zach Taylor for worst coach in the league. The Cardinals offensively, like Cliff Kingsbury is supposed to be this offensive guru, right? Watching that Cardinals game, it felt like there was no structure. It felt like there was like nothing was easy for them. Everything was hard. It felt like Kyler Murray and a bunch of misfits, really. It felt like Kyler Murray playing backyard football, just trying to make plays happen. And early on, it wasn't working because he threw an interception early. The Raiders were up 20-0 at one point, um, or maybe 23-0. I don't remember, but I think it was 23-0. But yeah, like Cardinals could do nothing right. It was brutal. It was absolutely brutal. But at some point in time, Kyler Murray clicked, bro. And Kyler Murray put the team on his back, damn near. Had some of the most incredible plays I've ever seen watching football. The 2-point conversion where he's running all over the place for like 20 seconds, looking for somebody open. Nobody's open. And at the end of the damn play, just runs it in himself. That does not happen. You don't see that often. You don't see that at all. Kyler Murray is a one-of-one talent, man. I don't think there's anybody in the league, maybe NFL history, that can do what Kyler Murray can do. Because he's not only fast, like of course he's got straight line speed for sure. But he might be the quickest, like like he can start and stop on a dime, man. It's crazy to watch Kyler Murray. That might be because of his size. But the dude can run full speed, stop, change direction like nothing, and then runs full speed again. Like he's insane. And my favorite part about Kyler's game, and I'll say this about Jalen Hurts too when we get to him, you rarely see Kyler Murray take a clean shot. My gripe with Trey Lance, sadly we saw what happened with him, but that's also the coaching staff's fault for running power with Trey Lance. What are you doing, Kyle Shanahan? Lamar Jackson. For as much as I love Lamar and praise Lamar, he'll take a couple big shots every now and then, every other week, which is not good. You know what I'm saying? And he got injured last year. So, but Kyler Murray, Jalen Hurts, these guys, you rarely ever see them get hit clean. Even on sacks, they're not gonna hit hard. They'll go down before a big man will come and hit him clean. I love Kyler's game, man. I love Kyler Murray. So much fun to watch. And hopefully the Cardinals can get back on track as they get healthier. The offensive line got a couple starters back, I think. Justin Pugh was in the lineup this week. Hopefully the O-line can stay healthy. Hopefully, they can get DeAndre Hopkins in the fold. I know he's suspended. Rondale Moore is injured. Uh, what's his name? Greg Dortch. Like, where did Greg Dortch come from? What a find for the Cardinals. He's been fun to watch the first couple weeks. It's kind of been the security blanket for Kyler Murray. Um, I don't expect that to last with Rondale Moore coming back. I assume Rondale will probably take his spot, but uh, shout out Greg Dortch. He's doing his thing. Props to him. Um, and then Hollywood Brown. Hopefully, with DeAndre and Rondale Moore coming back, Hollywood Brown kind of finds his way into this offense. They're kind of using him in that DeAndre Hopkins role where I feel like he should be in the slot right now. But I don't know. I think Marquise Brown will find his way as the season goes on, hopefully. Ideally for the Cardinals. They just got to get healthy. They just got to get healthy. Hopefully that'll help them make the playoffs like I predicted before the season. I think this is a playoff team because I just can't doubt Kyler Murray. You know what I'm saying? But the defense was much better this game too. They forced a fumble at the end. Scoop sixed it to win the game. The Raiders didn't score that much. Obviously the Chiefs had like 48 or something crazy week one. The Raiders are also still figuring some things out on their own. Devontae Adams only had 7 targets this game. They got Darren Waller and Hunter Renfrow more involved, which is good to see. But this is not the same Derek Carr from last year. I don't know what it is. I don't know what's going on here. But Derek Carr just kind of feels off. And maybe, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt because it's a new coaching staff. That Patriots, Josh McDaniel's offense is notoriously very hard to learn. It's only 2 weeks in, so I'm not writing Carr off, but he doesn't look as good as he did last year. Again, just 2 weeks. I'm not saying anything that Derek Carr can't get back to that level, especially with these weapons. But I need to see it, man. Raiders are 0-2. I picked the Raiders to make the playoffs, so that's not looking great, but still early. Who do the Raiders play? Let me see. Raiders got the Titans next week. You need to win that game. Raiders got to win that game. Cardinals get the Rams. That's tough. I think the Cardinals will probably lose that game. But Raiders against the Titans, you got to win that game. Titans are dealing with more injuries than you guys are. Titans have way more shuffling than the Raiders do. It won't be easy because I still like the Titans. I know the Titans got blown out, but I still like that defense. Still a big fan of Coach Vrabel. And it'll probably be a lot tougher because Vrabel's probably used to seeing that Patriots offense. Like, he probably knows a lot of what Josh McDaniels likes to run, so that'll make it even more tougher. That'll be an interesting game to watch too. So, but Raiders, it's a must-win. You don't want to go 0-3, especially in this division. You had one division game, but you still got to play the Chiefs twice, Broncos twice. You got to beat the Titans. You have to. That's a must-win for the Raiders. Let's talk about the Texans-Broncos game. Honestly, I don't have much to say about this game. Other than Nate Hackett, you got to step it up, my guy. Broncos have too much talent, offensively and defensively, to be scoring 16 points against the Texans. And what was it? Was it also 16 against the Hawks? Let's go back and check. It was 16 against the Hawks. 16 points back-to-back weeks. That's not going to cut it. You have to do better. Now, before the season, I thought the Broncos were overrated. I didn't pick them to make the playoffs, and this was largely why, because they have a lot of new pieces, a lot of moving parts, a rookie head coach. Like, I didn't think it was fair to compare Russ going to the Broncos like Stafford going to the Rams or Brady to the Bucs. And this is why, because the Bucs have Bruce Arians. Bruce Arians is a well-respected, tenured, phenomenal offensive mind in this league. Sean McVay, same thing. Young, boy genius, boy wonder. Sean McVay is one of the best coaches in the game. And those rosters were way more loaded than the Broncos. Because the Broncos, I like Cortland Sutton a lot. I like Jerry Jeudy. KJ Hamler, I like him. Alberto, I like him. But these guys are largely unproven, compared to Cooper Kupp, compared to Odell Beckham compared to, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, you know what I'm saying? Antonio Brown, Gronkowski. All those names from the Bucs and the Rams are tenured, you know, kind of legendary players. Save, Godwin's still building himself up, but you know, uh, the Broncos still have to prove that. The Broncos aren't on the same level as the Rams and Bucs. I never saw that. So Russ coming in, and that's the other thing. Russ was injured last year. Russ didn't have a good year last year. You know what I'm saying? Um, and he's off to a sluggish start this year. But I do think the Broncos will get better. I probably picked them, even though I had them fourth place. I probably had them winning like 8 games. Like I'm not so down on the Broncos where like they're winning 4 games or anything crazy like that. They have too much talent. It just comes down to the coaching staff putting the talent in the correct situations. And so far, Nate Hackett has been brutal. Like one of the worst, if not the worst coach in the league. Brutal. That level brutal. So I just need to see more from the Broncos. It has not been good so far, especially from Nate Hackett. Like he's the main guy. Like he's got to step it up. We'll see if he does. We'll see if he doesn't. He's a rookie head coach. Only time will tell. As for the Texans, don't have much to say. We know what the Texans are. They're not one of the best teams in the game. They're bottom 5. Lovie Smith is doing everything he can. I like this coaching staff a lot. Pep Hamilton. These guys are doing everything they can, but they just don't have the elite talent on both sides of the ball. So I don't have much to say about the Texans. They'll be fighting. They'll be tough. They'll be in every game. Maybe mostly. I'll say mostly. They'll be in mostly every game. They might get blown out here and there, maybe once or twice this season. But Texans are a tough out. I like what they're building. They're just not there yet. Simple. Let's talk about the Cowboys and the Bengals, man. I'm not worried about the Bengals, but I kind of am at the same time. I've never been a fan of Zach Wilson. Sorry, Zach Taylor. Never been a fan of Zach Taylor. Even when they made the Super Bowl last year, there were so many moments I felt like in games where Zach Taylor was actively trying to lose the game. Like it felt like what are these play calls? What are you doing? Do you know what you're doing? Can you please figure out what you're doing? Like Zach Taylor is a fraudulent coach in my eyes. I would have loved to see the Bengals fire him. I knew it wasn't going to happen because he just made the Super Bowl. But, and hire a guy like Brian Daboll. Can you imagine Daboll with these weapons and that quarterback, Joe Burrow? Can you imagine how amazing that would be to watch? But they didn't. They kept Zach Taylor. And I picked the Bengals to make the playoffs. But sadly, it feels like they're going to have to miss for Zach Taylor to get fired. You know what I'm saying? So there's a part of me that wants to see them kind of miss just so they fire Taylor and get a real coach in there. But there's also part of me where it's like, I love Joe Burrow so much. Joe Burrow is one of my favorite players in the league. Just the way he carries himself, his swagger, his confidence, and his ability on the field is also phenomenal. I know he stunk it up against the Steelers, but still came back at the end, had a chance to win the game. Same thing in this game against the Cowboys. Joe Burrow is that dude, and despite his coaching staff failing him, he's still making plays. Jamar Chase is a beast. T. Higgins is a beast. We all know this. They're still making plays despite the coaching staff's inabilities to be consistent and cohesive and successful. So, but defensively, Lou Anarumo, he's really good. He's doing his job. Bengals, lost to the Cowboys. It was a weird game. They're 0-2. Bengals play who do the Bengals play? They play the Jets. They have to beat the Jets. That's a must-win game. You can't fall 0-3 in this division, in this conference. You just can't do it. So Zach Taylor, please get your ish together. Get this offense under, figure it out. Call better plays. Like, do better. Like, come on, man. As for the Cowboys, Good win. Good win. The defense is really good. Dan Quinn. Bravo, Dan Quinn. I like him a lot, man. And Micah Parsons, early favor for Defensive Player of the Year. Great job by Micah Parsons so far. They play the Giants next week. Micah could have a field day against that offensive line. And this is a good job to keep pace in the NFC East without Dak. Way to get a win. I'll probably favor them to beat the Giants next week. So they'll be 2-1 without 2-0 without Dak. That's good. And I thought the hate on the Cowboys was a little, overreaction Monday-ish after week 1, after they lost 19-3 to the Bucs. Keep in mind, the Bucs are one of the best defenses, in my eyes, the best defense in the NFL. You mix that in with Michael Gallup out, the offensive line dealing with injuries, week 1's always weird. Like, I thought that the Cowboys kind of got trashed a little too much for that game. The Bucs were always a better team. I never thought the Cowboys would beat the Bucs, even if they were full health. The Bucs are just better. That's just clear-cut dry. Sometimes you just run into better teams. The Bucs are better. So I think the Cowboys have a good roster. Hopefully Dak can come back sooner rather than later. Hopefully under Cooper Rush they can stay afloat. They can stay 500. We'll see what happens, man. It's tough if I still would pick the Cowboys to make the playoffs. I guess I have to see how they go in the stretch without Dak. Because the Vikings are there. The Vikings definitely could make it, but yeah, I'm gonna double down. I'm gonna say the Cowboys still make the playoffs. Because the Vikings, we'll talk about the Vikings, and I'll give you the reasons why I don't think the Vikings will make it. But Cowboys, stay afloat, get Dak back. You're in an easy division. Stack up some wins once Dak is back, and I expect them to make the playoffs. Now, will they win the division? Maybe I was wrong on that. And we'll talk about the Eagles in a bit, but I do still think the Cowboys can at least get that 7th seed. If they don't win the division, they can at least get the 7th seed and hold a playoff spot for sure. Bears, Packers next up. Don't really have much to say about this. Packers, it was a get-right game for them. Always feels like Aaron Jones has one of these pop-out, breakout games early in the season. But this was more what I expected from the Packers in the Vikings game. Run the ball a lot, get the ball into Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon's hands early, establish the run, and then, mix in some of these pass catchers, you know what I'm saying? So Packers, I'm fine about the Packers. I didn't overreact from week 1. Played a bad game, no big deal. They've played bad games in the past. They lost 34-3 to the Saints last year in week 1. They ended up in the NFC divisional round as were they the 1 seed? I think they were the 1 seed in the NFC. So I'm not worried about the Packers at all. It'll still be a process early in the season, figuring out these receivers, but as long as they lean on the run game, their defense is good. But the problem with their defense is that it feels like their defense is so cautious. They don't take chances. They don't think outside the box. They're just so vanilla. And it works against the Bears because they're the Bears and they don't have much talent offensively. So it'll work, but we saw against the Vikings exploited that. The Bucs, Tom Brady, I know he doesn't have his usual core receivers, but if you don't think Brady's going to exploit that vanilla defense, you have another thing coming. If he's got time, he'll exploit it, So I want to see more from this Packers defense. I feel like Joe Barry should be on the hot seat. He's their defensive coordinator. I want to see more from this defense, They have phenomenal talent defensively. Let's get it going. I want to see more from this defense. As for the Bears, I don't have much to say about the Bears. We knew that the Bears were a bottom 5 roster in this league. They don't have much talent offensively. I thought David Montgomery did a lot of good things. Khalil Herbert's fun too. But Justin Herbert has like what, 11 or so completed passes in 2 games, or like 16 or something like that. Like that's bad. That's not good. They got to do more offensively. They just have to. But will they? I don't know. They don't have much talent, man. So prayers to Justin Fields. I hope he can make it out of this season healthy. I hope he'll be okay. Um, and then next offseason, they can really start to build around him. Moving on to the Monday night games now, the last 2 games that I'll be breaking down. Let's start with the Bills and the Titans, man. The Bills. The Bills. They have to win the Super Bowl this year. They have to. There's no other outcome to this season that will be satisfactory. They have to win the Super Bowl this year. If it's not this year, when will it be? Like, this is the year to win it all. The Chiefs, still building, still figuring out some things. The Bengals look like a crap show. The Ravens, dealing with injuries. Who else is a big threat to them? The Chargers, they get in their own way way too often. Who else? Who else? Am I forgetting anybody? I don't think so. Raiders, no. Broncos, no. Yeah, like Dolphins, maybe. We'll see this week. But I'd still favor the Bills. Like, you're not favoring any other team in the AFC over the Bills, man. Right now, you're not. Bills are world beaters. They are phenomenal. I thought the Titans could keep it close a little bit. Yo, they got thrashed. It was violent. Shout out the Bills, man. 2-0 against the Dolphins this week. Can't wait to watch that game. Don't have much to say about the Bills, man. They're really good. They're the best team in the league right now. I don't think it's close. Like, shout out the Bills. As for the Titans, they just ran into a buzzsaw. I don't think the Titans are done yet, especially in that division. They can still make a name for themselves, but so many injuries they've dealt with. The offensive line got worse. Derrick Henry hasn't been able to put the team on his back the first 2 weeks. Ryan Tannehill, if the surrounding situation isn't good for Ryan Tannehill, his play is going to drop off. So, but I still have some faith in the Titans, even though I did pick them to be third place before the season. With the way the Colts are looking, I think the Titans have an outside shot at the division still. So I'm not writing off the Titans just yet because of that division, but it might just be a little too much to overcome with the injuries. The offensive line. Tyler Lewan got hurt in this game too. Titans are in a tough spot, man. I need to see more from them. I don't know where to rank them, but I don't know. It's not looking great for the Titans. Final game on the slate. Vikings get absolutely thrashed by the Eagles. 24-7, it was not that close. It was more like 48-7. It felt like. It was a drubbing, it felt like. I got to give Jalen Hurts props, man. The only reason I didn't pick the Eagles before the season to win the division rather, was because I was hesitant on Jalen Hurts. I ended up betting with Dak Prescott over Jalen Hurts. But on top of this roster being phenomenal, and I've always said that, I've always been real about that. The Eagles have the best roster in the NFC East, easily. But Jalen Hurts, man, is thriving this season. Dropped 38 on the Lions' head. I know they only had 24 against the Vikings, but let me read this stat line from Jalen Hurts. 26 of 31. 330 yards passing, 333 to be exact, and a touchdown. Did throw an interception, but he also had 57 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. Like, there's about 3 Three quarterbacks that can do that: Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, Jalen Hurts. Phenomenal performance by Jalen Hurts. Can't even hate on him. Don't even want to hate on him. The A.J. Brown addition by Howie Roseman. Howie Roseman has been one of the best GMs for a very long time. Making that happen for, what was it, like a late round, first round pick? Phenomenal, phenomenal job. Or it may have been a mid round pick. I don't remember. But either way, whatever it was, great job. A.J. Brown's opening up everything for this offense, allows Devonta Smith to be more of a number two rather than an alpha. Gives Dallas Goedert open space in the middle. Quez Watkins as the deep threat, caught a long touchdown pass. They have so many running backs too. Miles Sanders is running the ball well early, and this was an issue last year where the coaching staff didn't want to give him touches. He averaged almost 5 yards a carry last game against the Vikings. Boston Scott is a good runner. Kenny Gainwell is a good receiver out of the backfield too. The Eagles have so much talent on this roster. I don't like the Eagles. I'll be clear. I'm not a fan of the Eagles, but I got to be unbiased. If Jalen Hurts can play like that consistently, this is a Super Bowl threat, especially with the NFC. Now, again, I expect the Bucs to be way better once they get their guys back, once they get healthier. The Packers, once they get everything situated. But the Eagles are up there, man. The Eagles are a legit Super Bowl contender if Jalen Hurts can play like this consistently. And that remains to be seen. But the Eagles' schedule is also pretty easy. Like, the Eagles are scary. They're scary. Darius Slay played lights out. If he can do that consistently against number one guys, dude, the Eagles are scary. The Eagles' pass rush was giving the Vikings O-line fits all game. Kirk Cousins barely had any time to throw. Threw a lot of terrible picks. Fair. Kirk was not good in this game. I'm not saying he was. But the offensive line got their tails whooped. Dude, the Eagles are... Damn. Like, the Eagles are legit, man. Jalen Hurts got to keep playing like that, though. But props to him. Because he showed out. And he showed out week 1, too. Jalen Hurts is the real deal. I wish I drafted him in fantasy. I'm not going to lie. Props to Jalen Hurts, man. So happy for him. He's a good dude. Work ethic, insane from all accounts. You know, from anybody that knows him. His work ethic is legit. And it makes sense because you're seeing massive leaps in between seasons that Jalen Hurts is really getting better. Really working hard at his craft, you can tell. So big respect to Jalen Hurts. Big respect to the Eagles, man. They're legit. They are legit. You know, I know it's early, but I feel like some teams you can just tell. The Eagles, you can tell. Like, if they can stay healthy, they have a roster to compete with anybody. You know, Jalen Hurts, if he plays like that, they can beat anybody. That's a fact. Vikings, I'm not going to take too much of this game from the Vikings. Kirk Cousins, prime time, just something about that. I don't know what it is, but Kirk Cousins prime time is just not an NFL starting quarterback. For whatever reason it is, he's just not. I'm not worried about the Vikings. We'll see. I need to see more from them. Because week 1, they played the Packers, who were all over the place. Week 2, they played the Eagles, and they were all over the place. I need to see more from the Vikings to really gauge them. Now, luckily, they've stayed healthy through 2 games. They have to continue to stay healthy. To be a playoff team, they have to stay healthy. That's their biggest issue. So, we'll see what happens. But that's the breakdown for every team, guys, for every game. Can't wait for week 3. Make sure you like the video, subscribe, comment down below what you guys thought about your team's performance, what you guys think about the season as it unfolds down the stretch. Appreciate the love, appreciate the support. Again, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Timestamps are down below if you didn't see it yet. You made it all the way to this video. I appreciate you. I know it's a long one. Appreciate the love, appreciate the support. We'll see you on the next one.